Everybody, welcome back for another episode of Healthcare 360. I'm your host, Scott Burgess, and in front of me, I want to give a quick introduction. And this is a friend of a friend who then we became friends, and you know how the story goes. So we had an episode back with, I believe it was episode number 60, if my memory serves me correct, with Dr. Christina Rahm. She blew it up, completely blew it up, and she educated us and taught us things that we thought we knew that we didn't, and other considerations that we needed to take a higher perspective on and bring into the conversation. So she has a large network of people and that she works with. And we also know that she's a pretty brilliant mind at the same time. She takes the time, she does her homework, she does the necessary action steps to make sure that her outcomes are on point. One of her friends is the CEO of the Root Brands, Clayton Thomas. We told you in a couple episodes back that we were going to be sampling and trying two of the products that we'll be talking about today, Clean Slate and Zero In. Clean Slate has proven to be extremely well accepted into my body, and Zero In is what I'm going to nickname as the NZT Limitless pill that you saw and heard about in the movie. It's that good without any of the side effects or having to slip blood off the ground and all of that kind of stuff. It's amazing. It really does help with the focus. Clay, welcome to the show, brother. Really appreciate you making the time.
Having me, bro. It's a pleasure. As Christina was telling me, and I got to watch a little bit of you guys record your initial conversation with her, but to be able to collaborate with similar minds is always a joy and a blast. So, thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity to hang out, and being able to follow her always always creates an opportunity to catch up. So
that's a tough pair of shoes to fill, no doubt, no doubt. All right, so let's start off with this. You identified a problem. That problem was,
well, systemic toxicity. And I think the easiest way to explain it is the cause, right? And that's from where I grew up. And I think we are all a culmination of our experiences, right? It doesn't matter if you hold a doctorate, if you hold a master's, or if you're like Christina, where you hold a master's, a PhD, an EDD, a PsyD, and postdoc at Harvard and everywhere else. But all we are as individuals is a culmination or a compilation of our experiences. And I was fortunate to be raised in a veterinary practice. So from the time I was one, really being in clinic and understanding the importance of nutrition and supplementation. But through my process through college, and then when I got out of school and really started studying different areas about 16 years ago, my perspective flipped to, instead of looking at the importance of nutrition, supplementation, lifestyle, but really understanding the importance of detoxification.
Yeah. And
the etiology of almost all of our problems, and it's probably pushing 95% of our problems, are from what's in us that are causing the problems. And the foundation. So instead of trying to treat all the symptomology, which is what we've been doing, whether it's nutraceutical or pharmaceutical, really looking at addressing the cause. And I think that was one thing that Christina was hitting on as well, because when we were introduced 6 years ago, it was bringing two philosophies that come from different perspectives. Her biotech background, my nutraceutical background, and seeing from those two poles, what the real problems are and how to create solutions.
Understood. I'm going to stop and take a quick time out and tell everyone my experience today. So last night I was about to have a handful of blueberries. This is going to go to your point, I promise. So I'm about to give her a handful of blueberries, and she looks at me, she goes, "Those are not washed." And so in my head, I'm like, I just want a few blueberries. That's it. So we started using grapeseed extract and fruit cleaner. So today for breakfast, I had my thing of blueberries, but I said, okay, let me put them in water. Let me spray the spray, put the grapeseed extract. Let me let them soak. Clay, when I went back and I looked at that bowl, I was like, holy shit. So to go back to your point about detoxing and the stuff that we don't realize, or that's unrealized, that's being put into our bodies, that's causing systemic problems, you hit the nail on the head. And I bring up that topic really quickly because that happens day in and day out without even realizing it with apple wax, for example, which is the preservative to try and keep them fresher longer in the stores, etc. Even if you're eating healthy. The amount, when I looked at it, I said, I had to dump out the water, rewash it to make sure it all got out before I would even consider put them in my mouth. Yeah. So first off, thank you for thinking that way and acknowledging a problem that you know exists that many people don't know because it's clear and it's invisible.
Well, so, and it's the philosophy that we try to teach now of rethink, right? It's going back and taking that different perspective to everything we've been taught. And I think we're in a time now, because of all of these different matters that are taking place, and whether you call it the spiritual awakening that we're having as a planet, in the financial environments, the political environments, the business environments that we're in, you have these innovators that are taking steps back and going, okay, let's look at this differently. Yeah. And, like you hit on with blueberries. I mean, don't do that with strawberries either, because you'll just throw them away. Right. And whether they're organic or not. But if you take the time, and I've been fortunate to do this for the last 16 years and really go down rabbit holes of environmental toxicology that would freak people out. But our exposure, like you said, is not day by day. It's second by second. 30 cubic meters of air every day are what we inhale. And it is the most toxic substance we're exposed to. And then when you look at the water, and we'll probably dive into fluoride and pineal gland decalcification. Yeah. And then you get into food and then the other things that, are put in our bodies. It's a position that you can freak out, but knowing that there are literal solutions, and if you do this well, everything else that you're concerned about or everything that ails you will not exist, because it can't. And I think that's really the premise. And it's just a matter of taking that different perspective, right? Elon Musk has done a really good job of rethinking, a few different industries. And he's done pretty well on that. Yeah. And continues to innovate. I can say we kind of think the same way. It's disruptive, but it's non-congruent with traditional thinking.
Let's dive into toxicology. You said you did some toxicology that could freak people out. Let's bring it up. What don't they know that they need to know?
Well, one, the glyphosate aspect, but I think the most important thing to understand is mercury, right? Mercury is the worst neurotoxin known to man. It's exposed through fish, the ocean. And this is the key. You're born with it. You are conceived with it. And this is the disconnect that people have. Because when we talk mercury, the first thing people think is, it's in the ocean. It's in fish. It's in adjuvants. It's in all of these different areas. But it's the areas that people don't understand. 30% of the mercury that's in a woman is passed into the fetus. So we had the philosophy for, decades and generations that we are conceived in this pristine environment. We are bathed in fluid that feeds us and helps us grow. But what the Environmental Working Group proved, I think it was 2003 or 2005, that's actually not true. Yeah. We are raised in a toxic cesspool, and our exposure begins there. And one of the crazy things for me is there were two subjects that over the last 16 years I really didn't hit on: Down syndrome and sickle cell anemia. Because they're two that are discussed as genetic conditions. And one of my colleagues that's here in the office with me, she has two nieces and nephews that had Down syndrome. And it caused me to do a little research. And if you go on PubMed, right, or DuckDuckGo as a research tool, but I prefer PubMed because you can look at a lot of the published literature. If you pick a subject, you want to pick autism, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, MS, cancer, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, dyslipidemia, high cholesterol. Pick the subject and then type "and mercury."
Oh my gosh.
And watch what you find. And this is the key, is that not only is mercury the worst neurotoxin known to man, it's really the second most deadly chemical besides the radioactive isotopes, because dioxin is the only thing more deadly. And we have it all in us. We're all exposed to it from day one. There's no beneficial amount, right? There's no amount of mercury that actually proves to be any benefit in our biology. But it alone makes everything worse. But then you get into the key parts, is you got to get the stuff out, right? It's a heavy metal. It's toxic. It's a neurotoxin. It gets in your brain, your central nervous system. It destroys. Here's the worst part. Every biological system of the body, mercury will disrupt, but it does it differently in every biological organism. And it's so terrible and evil that our methylation process, we talk about MTHFR issues, right? And people go, oh, well, I don't methylate. I have this specific gene that is inactive, folate and MTHFR. Well, it's mercury toxicity that shuts it off. And then it destroys the microbiome of the gut. So it's not only deleterious to every system of your body, but it shuts off your ability to methylate. Mm-hmm. It shuts off your body's ability to produce glutathione. It shuts off your gut's ability to produce dopamine and serotonin. So and it cascades.
Are you saying
it
that
everything worse?
So you're telling that the glutathione, the lack of production thereof because of mercury, is now one of the leading causes or the leading cause for joint disruption?
Well, and this is the thing, is people want to look at the symptom, right? They go, oh, well, I have joint degeneration or I have inflammation in my joints. Great. What's the cause of the inflammatory process? Because we know mercury, other heavy metals, glyphosate, other environmental